Okay, welcome to WooWoo Mama's podcast. I'm Colleen Carlson. We have Gina Petropoli and part 2 with our guest Ellen, who is sharing her story about her daughter. So welcome everyone. And here we are for part 2.
You again for part 2.
Yes.
Nice to be here. Thanks.
Yeah. So you were telling us right at the end of part 1 that 3 weeks after, I believe you said, right after the birth of your grandson, things shifted. Was that?
What was 3 weeks after after Saige had her wisdom teeth pulled.
Sorry, yes, after she had wisdom teeth. And he was how old then? He was like almost 2?
Yeah, he was 17 months.
17 months. Okay. And so she had her wisdom teeth pulled, all 4 of them. She did end up taking the oxycodone. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the shift happened.
Yeah. And it was definitely a very quick shift. At that point, she left my house. We didn't hear from her, but I could track her on her phone. Her phone was on my phone plan. So I would check it every night to see, making sure that I wasn't necessarily reading any text messages unless I was starting to feel very anxious about where she was. And then I could read them on the computer. But basically just making sure that she was still in the area, who she was texting with. I could see when she was texting with the friends that were more stable.
Mm-hmm.
They were keeping her friends that were more stable were also keeping in touch with me because they knew that this was not this wasn't really her. This was definitely something that had taken over. So they were keeping me informed, keeping me in touch and keeping me in the loop. So it was fast, I would say I think it was end of September. So it was July 5th, she left my house. And by the end of September, she had contacted me and her father, and he helped her get into a rehab. It was a rehab in Florida. So he had her, got her the plane ticket, got her off on the plane to Florida. She was in Florida. She went to an inpatient rehab there. We went down at Christmas, myself and her siblings and Julian went down to visit her at Christmas. She was doing really well. At that point, she had gotten into a halfway house. She was very into sobriety. She had made some great friends there, which she made great friends everywhere, but these friends were, new, sober, and supportive of her being a mom, being clean and sane, and it was good. She was really not liking how she got there, but loving that she was there. Mm-hmm. She was very into this. It was a tight scene. They were a good group of people. So we went down at Christmas time. We came home. She stayed there because she had, there was a plan for her to stay in this halfway house and working and doing 12-step meetings. And I should say that her father and I were both 12-step people. So she had exposure to 12-step recovery her entire life. And she had been a member of Alateen as well. So she knew she had a basis. Mm-hmm. So this wasn't necessarily new to her. It was just new and that she was able to use it for herself at this point. Yeah. We came home. She stayed there. She did have one relapse, like an overnight relapse, but she took care of it immediately down there. She stayed in the halfway house, and then it was August so she was down there for just under a year. In August, she said, okay, I'm ready to come home. She had a good plan in place, coming home here to our house with Julian. She had already been in contact with friends here that she knew were sober, so she was setting all of that up. And she flew home beginning of August. We had a great month. We went on a family vacation to Myrtle Beach. We had a blast. She jumped right back into being Julian's mom. It was like they had never been separated. I mean, they were just so tight. He was so happy to have her here. it was just a really, really good month. And then it was September 14th. She had texted me and she said one of her friends had overdosed and died. This was not new. She had had probably four friends from our area who had overdosed and died within that year that she had been gone. So this wasn't a new thing. But another friend was coming to pick her up. They were going to go to the calling hours that night on that Friday. I said, okay, understood, take care of yourself, make sure, you've got whatever you need to have in place and let me know. I'm here. I'll watch the baby. And she went and I didn't hear from her. I thought, ugh, yeah, I mean, I kind of knew, but at the same time, I was like, well, she's got a good support system. She knows what to do. So it felt different than the first time. Because I was very secure in the fact that she did not want to be doing this. This was not how she pictured her life. It wasn't what she wanted for Julian. Was very secure in that. So Saturday, I didn't hear from her. I texted her a couple of times. Hey, just, check in when you can. I'm here. Julian's here. Everybody's okay. Just want to know that you're okay too. And then that Sunday, I texted her. The last text was, I basically said, just, I love you. Want you to know that whatever is happening is okay. And, we can do this. Make sure you vote because it was a vote that we were voting. Or I said, I hope you voted. Let me know when you're ready and we're here. That was it. And I sent that text and probably I sent it like around 4 because we had been watching Shameless together and it was a new Shameless. And I was like, I think I said something too, like, you should get home. Shameless is about to start. So it was 10 o'clock. I got the knock on the door and it was our local village officer. And, he said, do you know where Saige is? I said, no, not really. And he said, okay, well, there's a girl that we've identified as Saige who overdosed at the airport. And so, we would like to have you come down. And I said, all right. So, of course, I called her father and her father said, yeah, she had called me earlier. She had done an intake for a rehab in California earlier today. And I just bought her the plane ticket to California. She was going out to rehab in California. And I said, well, she didn't make it. So he and I met. We didn't have to, they identified her through some tattoos that she had. So we didn't have to do that part. But yeah, that was the beginning of a whole different world. It was just everything shifted at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And so, just to back up for just a moment, just so that I understand the timeline. So the wisdom teeth 3 weeks later, and where is the baby during all of this? He was with you.
Me.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's been with me since birth. Well, before birth, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the shift happens, and then what? What was that like? If you could even put it into words, if you can even describe that.
Yeah, it's well, it was obviously devastating. It's every awful word you can think of.
Yeah.
And it was not funny, but just at the time, I guess that you go into this place of shock where you just are protective of your entire mental well-being. And yes, I had, Julian here with my son. My neighbor it was at night, so my neighbor came down and luckily he's like the brother I never had. So he came down and stayed with the kids and my mother-in-law came over and I went to meet my ex-husband and just try to process the shock for a minute. My family's in the funeral business, so I knew exactly who to call. And they took care of that part of it. So that part was a relief. I just had to make one phone call and everything was being taken care of on that end. But I was driving home from being with my ex-husband and kind of sort of processing this, but not really, just still in shock, both of us trying to, tell each other, oh my God, this is real and this happened. But both of us not wanting it to be real or have happened. And I got pulled over because my license plate I didn't have the back license plate on it. And I think that's when it hit me is I got pulled over and it was probably like 1 o'clock in the morning. And of course, I was a mess. And the officer came over and he started to say, your license plate, you don't have a back license plate. And I had it in the seat. And I'm like, my license plate is here and my daughter just died. And he said, okay, ma'am, go ahead. You're good.
Oh,
And that's when, yeah.
wow.
Because
So
I
I
had to
can't imagine you get this knock at the door because you would never think that like something like that would have even happened to
No.
her.
Right.
You're just thinking she's with people, she's safe. So I can't imagine the punch in the gut, like almost probably like, were you not able to have any emotion
Yeah, none.
because you were so like, I don't know. I would be like numb and lost and not even able to process
Right.
any of it.
Yeah, definitely. And it was, kicked it into crisis mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just went into, you have to do what you have to do, whatever that
Mhm.
looks like. Um,
Right.
and that's what I did. But yeah, it was there wasn't a whole lot in that moment, you're right. I didn't see it coming. I did not expect this particular, like I could have foreseen many other avenues or outcomes and, you
Right.
know, painful things that she would have gone through. And I kept saying to her, you just have to get through this part. Like life is hard. It's ups and downs. This is a hard part, being a young adult, being a young mother and having an addiction. That's hard, but you just have to get through this part. There's
Right.
other parts to come. And I
Yeah.
said that for often. We talked a lot about that. So I really thought, okay, it's going to be hard and it's going to be messy and it's not going to be anything that I want for her. But I didn't see this part coming. Absolutely not. Did not see it coming. And I don't think she did either.
I was
Really.
going to say it doesn't sound like she did because for her to
Yeah.
have her intuition to call your ex-husband, her dad, and to set this up as the next phase of her healing journey. I mean, that was
Right.
her plan,
She
right?
wanted to leave to get better. Like she knew what was coming and said, I'm going off the rails and I need to get back on.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
So what
so
was it?
what, yeah.
What
That's,
was it? I mean, was it an actual overdose? Was
Yeah.
she, yeah.
So a lot of times, and this is very, across the board, it's very common that when people are going into rehab or thinking about going into rehab, they'll do that one last time. They'll give it that one last shot.
yes.
And that's
Yes.
what this was. And that one last shot was heroin, but there was fentanyl in it. And she didn't know that. And I don't know who knew that. I don't know if the person that gave it to her knew it. I really don't know. But
Was,
yeah,
was she with anyone? Was anyone else around there? So
no, she was in the bathroom at the airport. And then a cleaning lady found her, um, like
Wow.
after she had passed. So there was no help there. Yeah.
And that's the tragic thing. And with fentanyl, because I've heard it in so many stories. We even have a girl here locally, she was a college girl last year, right before Thanksgiving. They took something that wouldn't have harmed them, but they didn't know it was laced with fentanyl. I mean,
Yeah.
this is not a suicide. This is not somebody who is doing this because they want to die. And that's like, to me, the most tragic part of all of this.
Yeah, I agree. And it's in everything now. There's nothing that's safe. And there
It's
are
so
ways,
true.
yeah, and there's ways to use safely now. 5 years ago, we're still fighting stigma, right? I mean,
Yeah.
people don't want to talk about it and people want to, you know, have judgments against other people who are using, but really at this point, that's that's not helpful. It's just pointless to do that because
Yeah.
People, if you want people to live, you need to talk about it. You need to accept that this just is what it is right now, and
Oh,
let's do better.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not
Yeah.
pretend that it's not happening or that it's just bad. And so let's just close the door on it.
Yeah.
And so this the setting of this, right? And so she is literally trying to get her life back in order, right? Like she's constantly trying to do that. And so there's a power in that, right? And then something came in, and took that power away from her, unbeknownst to her, right? um and I think you froze a little bit, Ellen. Are you there?
Oh, I think you guys froze. Am I frozen too?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. I don't know
We're
if you heard.
unfrozen now.
Okay, we're unfrozen. I don't know if you heard that, but it's like something came in and interfered, right, with her progress, with her healing progress. Um, did you hear me? Because I don't know if you're frozen again or not. Oh,
Oh, I think she disappeared.
we lost her. Maybe she'll come back on.
Yeah, hopefully she'll come back on.
Hopefully.
So while we're waiting for Ellen, we can, okay, she just joined again.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Hi, sorry, I got booted.
Yeah,
That's okay.
we can hear you. Oh, there you are.
There she is.
Okay. Technology, right?
Yeah,
Right.
got it.
So you obviously you had to go through, this horrible, horrific, painful, enduring while you're trying to raise your grandson, right?
Yeah.
What is that like? Just energetically, just what is that like for you?
It's given me purpose and it's given me focus. So I will say that it's been good in that respect. I think for both of us, for him as well, because there was no transition. He's just been here. Now he's just been here for 7 years. We have a very large extended family that has been completely supportive of us. So that's the good part of that, is that he had no, major shifts or transitions. He still is. I mean, obviously, it's not something that he gets over. He's going to continue processing this for the rest of his life, but he's able to process it without other big shifts in his life. So I'm grateful for that. And yeah, it's given me a focus too. Like, at times I've thought, well, I haven't had that moment to just strictly grieve.
Right.
Because, I've had to be here for him. But that's okay too, because I mean, I've been grieving. You can't avoid it. It just, no matter what, you just do. Yeah.
And a piece of her lives on in him too. So that's got to be a huge consolation for you.
Yeah.
To have that, does he because he was pretty young, does he understand anything or?
Yeah. So, in those days and weeks afterwards, it was, I like I said, I come from a funeral home background. I grew up above a funeral home. That's our family's business. So I have a lot of that experience with grief, but this is different. And talking to him about that it was really difficult for me to find the words. But my mother-in-law, bless my mother-in-law, because she came right in and she explained to him in little boy words that, mama is an angel and now mama is all around all the time. And, you don't, all you have to do is think about her and she's right there. Even if you don't think about her, she's still right there because she's the one that's going to be with you and be around you all the time. And so she gave him this sense that that Saige is there with him. And that's what he says. That's where he comes from is, mama's here. Mama's always here.
Aww.
And my daughter and my son, they latched on to the penny thing, so especially my middle daughter. And it is odd. I mean, everywhere we go, she finds a penny. We were in the
Yeah.
middle of a field yesterday. And she
Oh, yes.
They,
put
yeah,
her
coins
blanket
are a
down.
big one.
Yeah,
That's a big one. Yeah.
yeah. So she put her blanket down and she put her, and then and she turned and looked at me and said, and it was a penny. And she's like, I'm like, well, yeah, no, I know. That's what happens. That's the way she's coming through. So
Kate.
Um,
Yeah.
So beautiful. Before we get into the spiritual aspect, is there anything that you could say to someone right now that may be going through, experiencing at any stage, this scenario, whether it's the loss or it's rehab or it's just a change in behavior, anything that you could offer to a parent, to the family, just based on your experience?
yeah, I mean, I will say that, with all of the kids, I was never shy about talking about drug use and the potential possibility for them to become addicted. And, we talked about it. That was all of their life. So, I mean, having that safeguard there, I don't think there's any magic wand that anybody can wave. It stinks. It's the hardest thing to be the sober person, watching a person with substance use disorder, suffering. And it's so, so hard. But and it's very anger inducing. I get it too. I mean, there's so many points where I was just so mad, just stop doing this. But I also understand the way that I understand the disease model of substance use disorder makes sense to me. And when I have that compassion, and that empathy, for the person that's using, then I'm able to give that unconditional love. And that's all they need.
Yeah.
We can talk to them. We can, provide help for people that have substance use disorder, but what they really need is connection.
Yeah.
And that's what we need too. And if we can, however we can do it, stay connected, because you won't regret it. You will never regret
Right.
staying connected, and providing unconditional love. And it's hard because it's a nasty, nasty disease that really changes people from who they are in their core. You know who they are, you know what their soul is. And this disease can really just put a mask on them, and you might not even recognize them. Love them anyway. That's the best
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Love is where, I mean, Colleen and I know this, like, love is where it's at for everything. And I think that for some people, a lot of that might feel missing. And I'm glad that she had that support and always had that love around her, because I'm sure she, left this earth knowing that. And what a consolation to you, knowing what a great rapport and relationship you had with her. Like, there's no regrets on your end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. You are a
And
beautiful mother, Ellen. Oh
oh,
my
you are. Oh my gosh. I know.
beautiful mother, gorgeous,
Yes.
powerful mother energy. And I love that she's showing up in the pennies. And,
I know.
it's so beautiful. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, Gina, if you had something.
Yeah, oh yeah. No, the only thing I want to add is, with this whole fentanyl thing, we have to really drive home to our kids, because, teenagers, college kids, I think a lot of them just really think that, oh, it's not going to happen to me. This is just something that you read about. But you don't even have to be addicted. I have a girl in college, and I'm reminding her, when you're out at a party, if you leave your drink down, please, if you turn your back for 2 seconds, just don't touch it. If you're with somebody and you don't know them, make sure you get a drink that's bottled. It's like, I hate to sound, crazy like that, but it's not crazy, because
No.
this is a real thing. And I'm always saying, don't even take a Tylenol from someone. Like, if you have a headache at school and you're out, she only goes to school across town. I'm like, I'll bring it to you, or you go to a store and buy it. Like, I even go that far as to say, don't take a Tylenol from anybody. Know what you're ingesting, because this is a real thing. And innocent people have gotten, they've gotten in a place where they never intended to be, at the end of it. It's heartbreaking, and it's evil. The whole thing it's evil.
Yeah.
So yeah. But it's very interesting that you mentioned that she was on her way to rehab and she had to have that one last time,
Mhm.
because Kolein and I are going to be interviewing the author of a book who chronicles his addiction to oxycodone, heroin. And when he was leaving, I was just grazing over some stuff today, and I was reading that he was going to be leaving at 6 a.m. and he had to have that one last shot of heroin before going. And I was just like, oh my God, like, why would you do that? So to hear you say that, like, this is a thing. I
Yeah.
guess it's like, the person going on a diet that has to cut out the sugar, and they're like, okay, I'm going to have that cake tonight. I'm going to have whatever I want tonight because tomorrow I'm going to start to eat cleaner. I guess it's the same thing.
Yep.
Addiction is addiction, whether it's sugar or a drug or whatever it may be.
Yep.
So for parents out there, please never stop talking to your kids when they're in college. When they're adults, they still need guidance, and they still need those reminders that this really can happen to you. So
Yeah.
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 And
Absolutely.
very quickly, as we see.
Mhm.
Saige.
yes.
Yeah, so let's maybe shift into the now, like what's happening now, and how are you connecting with her, and how are you keeping her present with you all, and
Yeah. I talk to her all the time, obviously, about everything. It's just, when she first passed, I would say it was probably a couple of weeks, maybe even a month after she passed. She was messing around with the Alexas. So don't say that too loud, I'll turn on. So I was sitting in the living room, and it must have been a month after she passed, and we had we had it in there, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it started playing music. I thought, well, that's odd, but it was her music. So, and she liked, and you could tell like where her mental state was. Sometimes she liked really hard rap stuff. She was also very into like show tunes. She was very into like sad, sappy music. So she had like really definite tastes. And this was gangster rap popped on. And I was like, what the heck? So I went over and I shut it off, and I sat back down, and within like 2 minutes it went back on again, different song, same genre. And I went over and turned it off and sat back down. 2 minutes went back on a different song. And of course, like I just started sobbing. And I was on my way to work. My mother was coming over to babysit Julian. And I met her at the door and I said, listen, something's going on. Saige is coming through. This is what's happening. This is how it's happening, just so you know. And then I had to go to work. And it only happened once for her. And it was one of her sad, sappy songs. But that happened repeatedly for probably about 2 years. She would do it in the middle of the night, many times, middle of the night, the one upstairs.
That's a little startling.
Oh my God, like blaring so loud. And I would like jump out of bed because I didn't want it to wake Julian up. I mean, we're talking 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was like, Eminem is screaming in my bathroom. And I'm running for the bathroom, like, stop doing it so loud.
I say to everybody, and I've said this to Gina too, these gadgets, the phones, everything.
Oh yeah.
They are portals for communication, When I was younger, before we had all the computer and all of that, I used to have things happen through the radio.
Sure. Yeah.
A little transistor radio, like in my house, it would just all of a sudden turn on, and I was like, yeah, so that's how they communicate. Like the computer, I mean, they do communicate also in the physical realm where you'll all of a sudden start seeing, you know, an object that you
Yeah.
know. So what's
Right.
with the penny? What's the story with the penny?
Well, that was funny. It wasn't anything. It was probably I don't know, 3 days after she passed. I got a message from an old friend of mine who was also a medium, and he just said, I heard about Sage, and I just wanted to let you know, look for pennies. And I thought, okay, fine, but
Wow.
but it was odd because before I got the message that very day, I was at Starbucks and I was at the register and I looked down and there was, 3 pennies and a dime sitting right there. And I thought, well, that's weird. Nobody pays in cash. Like, and it was just sitting there. There was no tip jar or anything. And I noticed it and I got home and I got the message from my friend and I thought,
Wow. Oh
oh,
my God. Wow.
yeah,
I just got chills hearing that.
I was supposed to notice that. And
Yeah.
then he told me, yeah, definitely look for that. And Julian finds them everywhere too. And
Wow.
he'll pick them up and say, "Oh, Mama's thinking about us." You know?
Oh. Does he ever indicate like having conversations with her or seeing her?
Yeah,
Because kids are very sensitive
Yeah.
right.
and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, he has, especially when he's been with my mother-in-law, and especially at night, he's had a lot of really good dreams about her that he'll tell me
Oh,
about
Oh,
the
yeah.
next day.
The
Um,
dream state is where they show up too.
it's so true. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
yeah,
And that,
yeah.
yeah.
The night after she passed, Julian had a little toy that uh wasn't working and it had lights on it. It was a little farmhouse toy. And like sometimes like you could open the door and it would move and then there were like little teeny house lights that would
Hmm.
it was sitting there in my state of whatever. And there was a bird sound that started chirping from that particular toy. And then the lights on the little toy were flickering and flashing. And I just sat there watching it and I thought, yeah, I hear you. I know you're here, and that happened probably every night for at least 2 weeks, that
Oh,
this particular toy. And only at night and only when I was sitting there. It didn't happen, during the day or when the kids were around.
mm.
So it was just I know that's her.
Of course.
Um,
Yeah, I mean we're so like linear and 3D, right? That we think that there's a finality, you know. And
yeah,
it's a transition, not that we don't feel it and mourn and grieve and all of those things and feel anger, you know, and loss, but it's like, and then there's something more. And to know that there's something more, I feel can give people so much hope, you know, to look for those things, look for those connections, be aware. I mean, whether you're woo woo or not, you know,
Yeah.
it's like just, I mean, were you spiritual? Were you
you
before?
know, no, I mean, to an extent, and I've looked into various, different spiritualities. I would say I was more spiritual than religious. But at
Mhm.
this point, after Sage had passed, I was kind of like, I'm definitely not into any sort of religion, and was very much questioning all of this. But I don't question that you're exactly what you're saying, that she's just in a different space. She's just in
Yeah.
it. She's still here. I can't physically hold her, even though I want to. She can't physically help me out, even though I think she wants to, but she's still here,
Yeah.
as much as she ever was. She can be more encompassing now. She's not just here for me in this one moment. She's here for so many of us, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it has to be comforting just getting those little messages from her, whether it's a penny or a dream. I know I have myself have found comfort from loved ones who have passed. When I get those messages, it warms my heart, makes me smile, and um, it just makes you feel good inside, just knowing that they're still connected to you.
Yeah. She's done it through the radio quite a few times when I'm driving. So the other thing is I don't listen to music. I only listen to NPR. And that was always a thing with the kids. They're like, come on, can't we listen to some music? I'm like, no, it's just I can only do talk radio. It's just NPR. And she, to this day, even with my son in the car, we'll be driving, NPR's on because that's all that's on, and it will stop and a rap song will come on. Show
Funny.
tunes. Show tune. There's no radio that plays show
That's
tunes.
not right. Yeah.
They'll just bust through. We'll look at each other like, and I'll say, "Hi, Saige. I know you're here."
That's precious that you have.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like so vivacious. That's so, that's so alive. I mean, that's so present, right? It's just,
It is.
I mean, what
And
a
the fact that it's really important that when she does that stuff, that you acknowledge it and that you're talking to her. Like
yeah.
that, it's so important to keep that connection going back and forth because I do find, I know, like with my dad, when I have something or I need an answer to a question or help with something, I always talk to him. I literally have conversations every day. And when I really need to go to him, he puts the answers in front of me. And usually it's within a short amount of time. Like they're always listening. So
Yes.
always remember that. And I know that you know that. I don't even have to tell you that.
I do. I do. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm having conversations with her, but especially in those moments. And I'll say, "Oh, hi, honey. I know you're here. I see you." Yeah.
Wow.
So beautiful that you have that connection, and also that your grandson does too.
Yeah.
And is aware of that. I mean, if my dream, because of what I do for a living, and Gina working with energy and so forth, it's like my dream is that everyone understands that there's more, than this earth plane, and that we can actually cultivate a practice of some kind. It's a personal practice, but of communicating, with the other side, and that it is available, and it wants to speak to us. It wants to help us, and even if we don't know anyone who passed, even, there's still this
Yeah.
presence, that's available for us. And if we could tap into that, and your grandson is growing up knowing that that's available. I mean, what a gift, right? To have that, to have access to that, to tap into that. So any other stories that you could share about, the other side and communications and so forth, or whatever you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it doesn't just happen for me. Her friends will text, quite often or send me a message and say, "Hey, just wanted to let you know Saige was saying hi today." Um,
Oh.
and however it was, whether they just found a note from seventh grade in like a box in their room that they didn't even know that they had, or if they found, if they were just thumbing through pictures on their phone and she popped up. So I get those all the time that people are, you know, um, just letting me know that not only are they thinking about her, but she's coming through to them too.
Yeah.
I get that quite often. And I've gotten it from a couple of people that never even knew her, knew they might know me or they might know Julian, but they never necessarily met Saige. And
Wow.
they'll come to me with stories that,
Oh,
um, there was a song or something that they have no idea where they've never heard the song before, but all of a sudden the song played and they were like, "Oh, I got to tell Ellen that Saige is around, or Saige is thinking of her or whatever." So yeah, I
oh,
get that. I get that a lot, and I do keep acknowledging it because I don't want her to drift too far. I
Yeah.
want her to stay close by.
Yeah.
yes.
And I think if she knows that, she's going to do that.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah. I can't imagine that she would ever drift too far from Julian. She'll
Yeah,
she'll always be there.
that's
So,
her connection, and to you
yeah,
too.
that's a
So
very strong connection.
I
Yeah.
have to know, like, how did you come to call her Saige?
Um, when we were thinking of baby names, I was trying to spell my husband's name backwards, and his name is Jason. And I said, "Oh, so wouldn't that be Sage?" And he was like, "No, Jason spelled backwards, not Sage." I'm like, but then he said, "But Sage is really pretty." And I said, "Yeah, Sage is really pretty." And when I was having her, I had the epidural. I had an epidural. I couldn't feel anything from the chin down. So after I had her, we thought her name would be Sage Amelia because I thought Amelia was pretty that way. If she didn't like a weird name like Sage, she could always go by Amelia, which was more typical. So after I had her, I couldn't hold her because I was paralyzed from the neck down. And my mom came in and she said, because she thought, Sage was a little bit odd. And she said, well, how about we put an I in it? So it's more like Paige. And I was like, whatever. I just gave birth to a newborn baby. I really don't care. Do what you want. It's fine. And then my mother-in-law came in, and one of the names on our list had been December, because we were all three of us, myself, my ex-husband, and Sage, were all December births.
Oh,
So we
wow.
thought December might be pretty. So my mother-in-law came in and said, well, how about her middle name is December? Because, you're all December. And I was like, really, I don't care. Do whatever you want. It's fine. I can't work. You guys know I just birthed that baby. So give me a minute to catch my breath. So her name was Sage with an I, December. And
Oh my gosh.
yeah, she was always, I was saying earlier, she was always kind of annoyed that her name was Saige with an I because everything was Sage, S-A-G-E,
Yeah.
but hers was
Yeah.
S-A-I-G-E.
Well, sage, is the wise,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And also sage is the actual sage that we burn to sort of
Yeah.
clear. It's a very powerful herb, and medicinal and all of that. So I think there's all of that kind of tied in. So when was she born? December what?
December 19th.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
then Julian was February 19th. So they both have that 19
Oh, wow.
there. That
Yeah.
Very nice.
All these connections, the connections give us solace, right? They remind us that there's more to this life, there's more to this living, and that we can really seek it. And when we seek it, I'm always saying this to people, like, if you want to see something more, if you want to know something more or tap into something more in the spiritual realm, just ask, just literally ask, either in a prayer or journal it. I'd like to connect with the spiritual realm. I'd like to be open to receive the love, the information, the wisdom. And so it's there, it's available. And she's like always showing up.
Yeah, she is. Yep.
Yeah. It's crazy. So she showed up. I'm going to tell you this, Ellen, before I met you.
I was just going to ask you, Colleen, if she showed up for you. The only way she showed up for me was tonight when I was getting that coolness, the refrigerator.
So I have these old notes in this notebook. I mean, it's like a crazy page of notes that I was writing when Gina first told me about you. And so after, I think we were on the phone or something, I don't even remember, but she said, oh, Ellen and her daughter, and she's, we'd like to have her on our show. And I was like, okay, that's great. And so she was just telling me a few things. And so after I got off the call, I sat here for a minute and I was like, is there anything, because I was trying to see if I could tap into her. And I was like, is there anything that I need to know? Is there anything you could say to me? I felt something, but I wasn't sure if it was her. And all I heard was, and I wasn't sure it was her. So because I was feeling something like Gina gets that sensation. And so I was like, is this you? Is this, how will I know it's you? And she said something that was written actually in her obituary, which I didn't know until Gina, I think you sent it to me or something. I don't remember because we had talked like a few weeks ago about it. And it was something about her needing to escape. And I thought, when I heard that, right, in the spirit, I thought, oh, that's interesting. That's probably not her. I don't know what, maybe I conjured it up, And then I was reading the obituary, and that was actually part of the obituary, which I thought, wow, okay. So all day today, knowing that I was going to finally meet you, Ellen, I was like, Saige, are you around? Is there anything and I kept getting, and I don't know what it means, but it means something to her or to you. I kept getting Devonshire or Devon. something to, I don't know if it's something for the future. But I kept getting that, and I kept hearing it all day long. Like it didn't leave me alone. So I don't know if that means anything to you, or if that meant anything to her, or if that's going to come up for you. I don't know, but like I'm covered in, I have the chill right now. So
Yeah, I've got the refrigerator around me right now. Just started.
yeah. So does it make any sense? Does Devin?
Yeah, that's Julian's father's name.
Okay,
Yeah.
stop. Okay,
Stop.
stop.
Yeah.
Okay, that's so beautiful. So like that's that's the thing that we have access to, right? We all do, right? I mean, you are a testimony of that. You are someone who is connected, to that vibrational, spiritual, whatever. Gina has a wonderful way of talking about religion and spirituality. And I don't know how you say it, but I love the way you say it. Something about how they're different, yeah.
I think I don't know what I say. I think it's kind of like you can be religious without being spiritual, and you can be spiritual without being religious. Like they're
Yeah.
two completely different things. Our religion is like, that's part of an institution. Okay, to me spirituality comes right here from the heart. It's your personal connection with whatever you see, because everybody has their own, for me, God. Okay, some people see it differently. They have a different connection. And a spiritual connection for me is also, I mean, I'm very connected to saints, the archangels. I do use them a lot in my healings. I'm sorry, but I am freezing right now. Oh my God. It's like I feel like someone put me in a cooler. Um, so, your religion is something that you were born into and you practice. It's the different habits that you do, to worship. And, your spirituality is just so much. To me, spirituality is just like so vast, and it can take you in so many different directions. So that's kind of how I
Yeah.
look at the two different things.
And
So.
some people don't have any religion, right? And
Right.
yet they're still
Right. And or spirituality. And I mean, these people are empty too, like when there's like nothing, and I can't imagine not having something to go to. I can't imagine, for me personally, I can't imagine not having God in my life, because it's somebody that I go to, I count on. But I also can't imagine not having this spiritual world that I'm so connected to too. Like you know, I just kind of mesh them together because they're both very important for what I do. So
yeah. So now that the father came up, what's with the father? Where is the father in the story? I mean, is he present?
Yeah, he's around. He's taking a role in Julian's life. Yeah.
That's
nice. Awesome.
beautiful. So anything else, Ellen, that you can share with this beautiful woman, that now the people who are listening are going to know her, and maybe she'll start to speak to some of them, I mean, she's powerful. Okay. So, yeah.
She's an amazing being. All of my kids are, obviously, and she was definitely put on this plane to do what she did. And I think she's continuing to do really good stuff just by us sharing our story.
Yeah. Do you share this story like in other rounds on other platforms? Like, is her story known from where you live?
Yeah, I've done a lot of speaking out about this. I actually did a video for the dental school, New York State School of Dentistry.
Oh, wonderful. That's
Yeah, because
fabulous.
they did do a big research project, and it is shown that opioids do not help with dental pain. What helps with dental pain is ibuprofen, acetaminophen, hot and cold, very basic stuff. That's what really works. Opioid, they don't have the same receptors that deal with dental pain. Opioids don't affect that.
Unbelievable. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Um,
So they did the studies. So are they going to do anything about it when it comes to prescribing this kind of stuff? Like,
yeah,
are they
well,
going to stop prescribing it?
that's the other piece too. We worked with our local senator to make sure that dental practitioners also have to do a health history, a family health history.
Oh,
So
good.
so doctors and dentists should be, before there's any prescribing done of any opioids or other addictive substances, should be going through a questionnaire with the patient about not just their own personal health history, but also family health history, so that
Mhm.
it's on the table and everybody's aware. That's supposed to be happening. That's been written into New York state law at this point. And we
Mhm.
had a hand in doing that.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. That's, I mean, and again, that's Saige working her power,
Yeah.
from the other side to
Yeah.
bring awareness for this kind of stuff. And I guess my question, which you probably might not, you might not even have an answer for it. So yes, there might have to be a health history taken for, extended family and stuff. But what if you just have something in your genetics from, a few ancestors before, there's something in your genetic, but you don't know it.
Right.
And you
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's like,
True.
if and are you really gonna die of pain if you're using ibuprofen? Okay, so I get it. It's painful. You want pain management. I just know that with my daughter, we managed it beautifully with ibuprofen and Tylenol. Like, there wouldn't have been a need. And she had all four of hers out too.
Yeah.
And, and that was prescribed. She was, I don't know, 16 years old.
And
So
it's not just
that,
dental. It's not just dental pain. I mean,
no, no,
I
it's
had
everything.
a gallbladder out, and that's what they gave me to take
Yeah.
home. Somebody has surgery on their ankle. That's what they, it's almost as though this. I know somebody who was on it for 20 years. I mean, obviously addicted, for back pain, and then died of dementia. That they're saying is linked to this too. It's
Oh, I didn't know that they had a link to that. Wow.
it's one of the, well, it's suppressing your abilities to function.
Yeah.
And so your decision making skills go away, and if it's triggering other things for people. So it's, we have fentanyl, and we have opioids, and we have oxycodone, and it's like, it's just, it's really gotten out of hand.
Yeah, it definitely has. And, I could get on a soapbox about our healthcare industry and our insurance industry and, taking the cheap way out and not giving people what they actually need for pain management. And honestly, some people do need these strong drugs for pain management. And that's a reality. But there are many other routes and options that people could
Right.
take. They can't afford. They just can't afford it. I mean,
Right.
back pain, could that have been managed with chiropractic, massage, acupuncture, all of those
Like,
things,
Right.
nutrition, things like that. But
yeah.
that's so expensive. And
Yeah.
it's not the way that we've been trained in our society to handle,
Right.
We want the
So
quick.
true.
We want
That's
the,
like a whole other podcast.
it is. Maybe we'll have you back on, because well, because you've been on that journey, like you've already uncovered some of those things. I can't really speak about them, and sound
Right.
like a knowledgeable person. But yeah, I mean, this is, there's a whole bunch of crisis within the crisis,
Right.
and
Yeah.
but in the meantime, the work that you're doing is actually solving some of these problems
Yes.
for people and making
Yeah.
people aware. And so I thank you for that. Like,
It's important. So thank you.
Well,
yeah,
yeah, thank you for giving me a platform to talk about this. This was wonderful. Thank you.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love getting to know Saige.
Oh,
I thank you for that.
yeah. Thank you for sharing her life with us and, your time with her. Are there any type of outreach programs? Is there anything you want to give a shout out to that you recommend? If somebody's listening and they do have a loved one or themselves that, might be spiraling or having a difficult time, is there a place you can recommend? Any routes for people to take?
Yeah, there's a lot out there, and I think, it's kind of individual, what you feel comfortable with. I will say that Narcan is available and free. You can contact your local Department of Health. They should be able to connect anybody with the place where they can get a Narcan kit, carry it with you. Even if you have judgments against people who are using substances, understandably, if you have a Narcan kit, you could save a life.
Yeah.
And there's only
Good to
hope.
know.
Yeah, there's only hope when people are on this side, to get through that. So I would say that for me, I've used 12-step. Al-Anon has been my family of choice for many years. I find connection and comfort, and people that understand all of the different emotions that you have when you love somebody that has substance use disorder, the anger, the confusion, the love, the hate, the all of it. So that's where I found a lot of comfort. But there's many other programs. And I would say, there should, uh, there is stigma, but I don't feel that there should be stigma. And I just
Right.
reject it, feel it. And I don't, I think the more we talk about this,
Yep.
the more we reduce the stigma, the healthier our entire society will be. So
Yeah, we have to talk about things. I mean, you can't keep sweeping things under the rug. You have to we're bringing light to things
Yeah.
tonight.
yeah,
And that's why we want to spread this podcast just so more people can understand it and understand. I mean, I think the biggest takeaway from this one is we're not talking about someone that had years and years of, I mean, this was like in a time frame of, this small time frame.
yeah,
The interview we're doing tomorrow, that was years. And it's interesting because the way that he healed, completely different. He used psychedelics for healing. I mean, he used a shaman, and it wasn't an overnight journey or a one-time thing, but it's very interesting. But I mean, his book is, just the ups and downs, and I'm glad as a parent you were spared of having to watch your daughter do that, because my heart breaks when I read, these stories. But your story is really scary because such a short time.
yeah. It was. It was very, very quick. Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
And we don't know, and I'm not even going to suppose to know, but we don't even know why she chose to come here to have that experience, to then leave, to maybe change, a crisis, to maybe help heal a crisis in our world.
Mhm.
I feel like she's very powerfully, energetically, and spiritually. So I want to, give a voice to that, because that is a real connection.
absolutely.
That
That's a beautiful way to put it. Oh,
that her purpose was much bigger than her age, than her time
yes.
on this earth.
Yep.
That's a good way to put it. I like that thought. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ellen.
Thank you.
This has
We
been
appreciate this more than you'll ever know.
privilege to
Like,
hear the story.
well, thank you. Like I said, this was a lovely platform to be able to put this story out. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Wow.
And we will, when we post it, we'll put Narcan kit, and we'll also mention the 12
Yes.
Al-Anon, just so people have a resource
Yes.
Yeah.
there. And thank you so much. Thank you everyone for listening tonight, and reach out if you have any questions. Thanks for tuning in to the WooWoo Mamas podcast. Thank you,
Yeah.
Ellen.
Thank you.
Ellen, and thank you everyone for listening tonight. Have a
Good
good
night.
night.
Good night.